Alright, let's take a look at the next game. Hikaru again with the black pieces. We get an Alekhine's again, bishop f5, knight c3, e6, and now does white deviate? Goes again with knight f3. And this time, will white change something? Maybe bishop e3? Goes bishop f4. So we have takes in the previous game. Let's see if Hikaru does the same thing. Hikaru taking some time here. And we get some deviation. Okay, so this did equalize for black. Surprise, white went for it again. Now this is the idea. Knight c6 can be played here, defending. Actually, the rook is defended. You could play queen c6 as well. Queen c6 is playable. It also opens the bishop on f8. He just develops the bishop. Queen b4 check, queen a5 check instead, with the idea of queen a6, I think. Maybe bishop e4 as well. Here, you can also take on e5. Okay, lots of complications. Taking on e5 runs into bishop c3. He takes on a2, just taking a pawn, saying, hey, I can take it. The queen could take on c7. This looks really risky for black. But now the queen comes back, and the knight on b6 defends. Okay, c6 here drops the knight, but then the bishop is hanging. Knight e7 is played. Queen is hanging on b7. You could take the pawn on c7. He gives a check. Noticing small details. The knight doesn't cover c8 anymore. It went to d7. Bishop blocks. The knight on e4 is hanging. And white's queen looks really advanced. Extremely advanced. What an interesting position. But trapped as well at the same time. You could take on d7 here. Just liquidate. And actually you can't, because the queen on d5 protects the rook on a8. White having some serious problems here, trying to figure out what to do. Black is wiggling out. He finds some idea. If you take on e4, bishop takes on d7, and you could play king e7 there. So I think you have to take the knight. No other move. And then maybe king f2. King e7, I expect. But then bishop g5 check. Actually, king e7, bishop g5 check, f6. Yeah, maybe that's the way black can... Okay, he just takes, and the rook on 8 defends. Bishop on d8. King f2 is played. What a game. The complications already really amazing. Okay. Bishop h4, rook d8. You could take here, but at the end of the line, the rook on h1 is hanging. And what is white to do? If you move the queen, queen c2 comes. Maybe you have to take, but this is losing. What an idea. What an idea. Queen b5. Queen gives a check. Separating the rook. You could take and go queen b1. Queen f3 also playable. Takes on d8, bishop takes. Bishop on e3 is hanging, and the rook on h1 is hanging. I think this is lost. Yeah, this looks really lost for white. Two pieces hanging. with a check as well. White resigns the game. Okay, let's take a deeper look at this game. E4, get the alekines. Knight b6, c4, d6, f4, takes. And again, we see this bishop g4 idea. A really wild game here. Queen takes d4. It's a different line now with rook d1. Queen takes on b7. This looks super dangerous, but apparently white is fine. Black is fine, sorry, and plays bishop e7, preparing to castle. You could have played queen c6 as well here, trading off the queens by force. He goes bishop e7, and after knight to e4, Hikaru doesn't go queen c6. He plays queen e5, recognizing all is fine in black's position, and he'll be safe. Queen takes on a2. After pawn c5, the consequence of this move is it opens up the d5 square for the queen, and Hikaru immediately seizes that and plays queen d5. Bishop e5 check, knight d7. If you play c6, what happens? Best move is just castle. I think taking seems like a natural move, but now queen takes with check is a big problem. And king f1 is the best move. Can't take the bishop because the queen is hanging. Knight d7 is played, queen c8, bishop d8, bishop e3, and queen takes knight, and bishop takes on d7. Here I thought king e7 could be played, but there's an amazing move here for white, which is simply castling, giving the bishop away with check, but now the rook is hitting the pawn on f7, and what's the idea? You're threatening to move the bishop and bring the rook in, and then actually just move the bishop and bring the rook in and give mate the queen or the rook. So knight takes on d7, queen d7, king f8, and king f2 is the losing move. Hikaru immediately spots that the king being on a dark square on f2 allowed the tactic. He's extremely tactically aware and finds bishop h4 check, followed by rook d8. This line is winning for black. If you take on d8, which didn't happen in the game, then bishop takes. If rook takes, king moves. Now the rook and the other rook are hanging in the corner. If you give a check, then f6, and we get this line where black can insert a series of checks, win the c5 pawn first, and then pick up the bishop. Even better, taking the rook here, completely winning for black. And king just moves, and this is a winning endgame because as soon as you win the pawn on b2, the queen will assist the pawn supporting it up the board, and as well the queen can come back, giving some checks, hopefully trying to win a piece. Okay, in the game, queen b5, queen f5, king goes to e1, not the best move. King to e2, supporting the bishop was best, and now queen f3 is really the nail in the coffin here, and it's game over. Okay, let's head to our sheets. And we gotta create another game slot here. Game number 4. We get the alekines again, and let's put main reason for win. Hikaru finds a very nice tactical shot with bishop h4 and rook d8. Hikaru's finding these tactics to ensure defensive resourcefulness or defensive play and aggressive attacking play as well. White missed bishop h4 check, so white blundered with king f2, running into this tactic, and instead could have played king e2 or castles earlier, giving away a bishop with a check to activate the rook on the f file. A very difficult tactic, even in classical chess, to find. Notes: White had an advantage out of the opening, but his king was unsafe the entire game. Okay, another note as well is Hikaru is taking close notice of the consequences of the opponent's moves and seeing small changes in the position that he can take advantage of. All right, let's pause here. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at these games, and I'll see you next time.